Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on the Dairy Signal. We're going to be diving into another Nexus innovation here this afternoon with CowManager. But before we dive into that, let's talk a little bit about today in history as we begin here on the Dairy Signal. And today is a fun one. We are headed to 1952, as it was on this day that the Mr. Potato Head became the first toy that was advertised on TV. And you're probably thinking and going back to your childhood, or maybe your kid's childhood, and remembering the Toy Story and seeing Mr. Potato Head on there. But fun fact, that was not quite the toy that was actually being advertised in 1952, as it was only the 30 pieces and features that were actually being sold. The body of Mr. Potato Head was expected for the user to grab a potato or a vegetable of their choosing at home and use that as their toy. So that is a fun fact. And also on the side of that, it was also helped that this advertisement or new style of advertising for toys helped sell the Mr. Potato Head with more than 1 million units in its first year. So obviously something has worked, as it's very much still tried and true to this day that advertisement on TV or streaming services is used very well. But moving on to why we are here this afternoon, and that is to dive into some Nexus innovation. And for those who are wondering what Nexus is or what that really means within the dairy sector, and I'm here to tell you it is a great platform that we have at our annual business conference in March that features 5 innovative companies and products that we showcase during both days of business conference. And now we have the opportunity to showcase them here on the Dairy Signal as well. And how these companies were selected and came about is that a group of fellow dairy producers looked through a list of applications, written and video, and found that these top 5 products are the most innovative of the year that we want to be able to showcase to you all as well. And so joining us this afternoon, we have Jared Krull, who's the Vice President of Sales and Services with CowManager in North America. And we're going to be talking about Sort My Cow, their sort gate technology here this afternoon. And so those who are watching live, if you have any questions you would like to ask, make sure to use the Slido feature to your right on a desktop device. And if you're on a mobile device, you can scroll on down below and type in your questions below for Jared. But without further ado, Jared, would you mind giving us a brief introduction about yourself before we dive into things here this afternoon?
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Thank you for having us. So a brief introduction about myself. Again, my name is Jared Krull. I work for CowManager, which is based out of the Netherlands, particularly a small town called Harmelen. It's based on a dairy farm. The main office is there. I believe there's about 160 employees, which is huge for the Netherlands that work directly there. Previous to working for CowManager, I worked in the AI industry and worked with monitoring. I probably have about 10 to 15 years in monitoring right now. So I'm definitely not a stranger to monitoring. I've been working for CowManager right now for 4 years. Started out doing more of a consultant role, and as the team has grown, now I'm vice president of sales and service. So this project here with the sort gate is a little bit personal to me. Started installing those about 2 years ago, and really worked with the development of this product and to what it is today.
Well, we're excited to learn more about the product and go through a little bit of the features and what makes it unique and why I was selected here for the Nexus Innovation Award. But with all that being said, I'm going to turn it actually back right over to you, Jared, to get us started so we can dive into what exactly is the sort gate and why it's got some unique features that producers might be interested in for their farms.
So I'll get started in the presentation and we'll slide right into the next slide here. So one of the things that makes it unique, and we're going to cover these a little bit in more detail as we go on, but every time we build something, we normally build it for the market. So before we even started our build, we've seen a need for something different. And this is definitely different than what we've seen in the industry. So things that we pulled from the field are, it needs to be quiet, needs to be accurate. If it's not accurate, don't even try it. So accuracy was huge. We had complaints of the cylinders not working because they'd freeze up because the air dryer would go down. So we wanted to build something different, something that wasn't reliant on say, an air compressor, and that's what we built. But there's other reasons that we built it the way we did, but one of those being cow comfort. And I think that's something that's really important to me is the cow comfort portion. But there's also reasons to have a sort gate, and that's what's listed here below. But one of the biggest things that I hear when people are considering this, it's not so much the cows per se. It's more the labor and not the amount of labor. But when we start putting in a sort gate to sort these cows, maybe it's longevity of their employees. You know, what kind of work environment can they create for their employees by implementing technology like this? So I'll move on to the next slide. It's going to get into the innovation. So you're going to see here a few different diagrams of what this sort gate actually looks like. So we really wanted something that's going to last. So we built something that's robust. Again, I covered cow friendly, right? Cow comfort. And I think that, you know, some of the competitors that we deal with, maybe cow comfort wasn't taken into account in their design, you know, and then again, we had to be highly accurate. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. So the way we built this is without pneumatics, we needed some way to move that gate. So what we use is actually use cow power, for lack of a better term, not horsepower, but cow power. So the cow will actually push her way through this gate, and we have a video later, and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But then we also utilize magnets. So with these magnets, and they're electromagnets, they're either powered on, powered off. I believe the rating on them is 800 pounds, and I'm like, how strong could this magnet actually be? So the first time we put one together and powered it up, I had to test it. So we locked the spoons, as we call them, and I pulled as hard as I could, and I could shift the whole frame, but I could not move that spoon. It's attached. When I say these are strong magnets, they're strong magnets. You know, it's not a cow magnet, right? It's definitely an electromagnet utilized in different industries, but this here, it's actually quite ingenious. So we don't have to worry about a compressor, an air dryer, any cylinders or anything like that. When you see, you know, the design in person, you'd be like, man, that was simple. Why didn't I think of that? So when I talk about cow friendly, you're going to see some sort gates in the industry. I would call them a saloon door type setup, where there's a swinging gate on a pneumatic ram, goes open and closed if it needs to sort an animal. But one of these things that you're going to notice is really the noise. So it's very, very loud. You know, maybe not as the loudest thing on the farm, but it's louder than I would like. So if you've ever ventured into a robot farm or a robot barn and you walk in there and how quiet it is, you know, I really appreciate, you know, how quiet those are. And when we talk about this sort gate is just as quiet. So there's a lot of rubber that's built into this to help prevent noise. So it's very, very quiet. It's open. The cows can see through it, so they're comfortable walking through it. The first ones that we put in, it only took a couple of days to start running cows through it. They just got comfortable really quick. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't have to push them through on the first 2 days, but after 2 days, they started learning, and it wasn't hard to get them to go through. So the other thing that was very, very important to a lot of the producers we had pulled in the field was accuracy. So I remember sort gates a long time ago. They kind of phased themselves out because they just weren't working the way that anybody wanted. And now we start seeing a few more. Some of them are just as inaccurate as they used to be. Some of them are more accurate. But one of the things that we wanted was something accurate. So you'll notice on our design, we have 4 RFID panels. So it doesn't matter, you know, no matter what farm we put it in, if the RFID button is in the right or the left ear, it doesn't matter. We also put some readers high and some readers low, just because you never know how that cow is going to walk through that gate. If her head is going to be down or if it's going to be up, it doesn't matter. So one of the reasons why we have issues with accuracy on a lot of the gates is because of interference. we're utilizing an RFID signal, which is a non-powered source. So we use the panel to actually power the source and then send the signal back. So if there's any type of noise or interference, we struggle with getting an accurate read on those animals. Now, there's other facilities where there's no interference and we don't struggle with anything, but we do struggle in some situations, and that's where our CowManager technology comes in. So from our ear tag itself, we can send a signal. It's a powered source. So not only is the reader powered, the ear tag is powered as well. So we're sending that signal in two different directions for them to read. And that's how we get away with some of the interference that other technologies struggle with. Very, very, very simple, but it's also very easy. We've kind of really mastered that technology of reading and identifying those cows accurately. There's also going to be a photo eye you can see right next to the reader in the picture. So if we do have a cow that comes in, steps in, and she's not read, say she lost her tag, say she's not associated with the tag, somebody misentered the wrong tag when they were doing it, or if it's a heifer and she didn't get tagged after she freshens in, when she stands under that photo eye, it's going to read that she's there, but we're not going to get a reading on the tag. So after a default amount of time, we're going to release that gate so she can go back to the herd. So even if we can't read it with our two modes of identification, it's not going to slow the parlor down.
So, Jared, let's stay on this for a second because accuracy, as you mentioned, is one of the biggest areas of concern as well as opportunities when you have something like a sort gate. When we're talking about accuracy, you have a lot of modes of action in order to make sure it stays that way. But if you were to put a number on it, and I know this is hard, so apologies on it, but if you were to put a number, what percentage of cows going through would have accurate ratings?
So this, obviously it's hard to put a number on it because there's just like on a dairy, this the success of the dairy is dependent on so many things. Same thing with the sort gate. I laugh a little bit because there is a ton of different reasons why we wouldn't have an accurate sort rate. So the reading of these tags is going to be near 100%. But the times where we get closer to like 90%, it's for facility issues. So most of the gates that we're putting in right now are retrofits. So yeah, like most of them, right? There's a few new facilities that we get to go put them in where there's no manure or anything like that, and it's picture perfect, and we get to be on the front end of the design and make sure that the flow is great. So not only is it the facility and where we put it and the amount of interference that's on the facility, a lot of it is tag maintenance. So sometimes we'll put it in and not every cow has an RFID tag. Some of the old RFID technology is actually powered and the batteries are dead. So once we work through those situations and we make sure that the cow flow is good and the cows can't come back up to the reader because we got a cow in heat that we sort out, she's going to turn around, come right back to the gate, hang out with her friends, stand in front of the gate. So once we get the cow flow figured out, make sure everything is maintained properly, all the tags are in, all the tags are working and identified with the right animals, we're going to be close in those high 90s consistently.
Okay. I mean, and that's always a great thing to hear. We know human error is sometimes a lot of where it comes in, but when it comes down to the product, it's great to hear on that. And I think one thing that I want to make sure that we cover here real quick, while it may be obvious to those who are listening, being it is a CowManager product, do you have to have the CowManager ear tags for the sort gate gear to work correctly?
Yeah, so like we only like all our products that we build here on out, and even from the beginning are created mostly for our producers. Um, so we don't market it to anybody else. I'm sure we could set it up in a situation if we had to, if they didn't have CowManager, but really where our main business is, it is in monitoring, and the gate is an add-on to our system. So we do prefer that everybody has a system. And right now demand is high enough that I won't even look at installing somewhere else. We try and do the best by our customers, and our customers are first in line when it comes to a sort gate installation.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to let you continue on for now. I know we've got a question that came in, but I think it'll be more appropriate later. So I'll let you keep going.
Of course. So the next thing I want to cover is the service. Everybody asks about the service. So there's a few different trains of thought on this, but you shouldn't have any unexpected costs. So what we're trying to do from the start is build something that's going to need zero maintenance. Now, that's not always possible. There's always going to be maintenance and things like that with certain things. But if you look at the spoon that's attached to the RFID panels, the hinge on that only opens like a quarter turn. So there's very few moving parts. So even if there is maintenance, the maintenance is minimal. But what we do is we charge a small fee every month, which covers the maintenance. So basically, there's a 10-year warranty. Everything on that 10-year or in that 10 years is covered with that fee. So maintenance, replacement parts, anything like that, it's all covered. So you don't have to worry about any of that. We have support around the clock. We're a worldwide company, so we have people based in Holland, here in the US, as well as in New Zealand, for instance, Australia. So basically, there's always somebody on staff. We have a number here to call in the US. We have a support email that's going to go out to all the support specialists. So basically, anytime that you have an issue, we should be able to resolve that.
So Jared, the question that did come in here is about that I was saying we're going to hold on to because it worked perfectly in this next slide. It was about upkeep and maintenance. You answered that portion, but the second portion of this question reads, how long are the magnets to last?
So we've had them in for 2.5, 3 years, and I've only replaced one of them. And so I don't foresee there being an issue with longevity in any of these. The thing that we see or saw with the one that replaced, a cow chewed through the cord. So again, right, facilities, we want to make sure them cows can't come back up, and the cow chewed through the cord and it actually was still functioning. I just didn't like the way it looked with the conduit chewed on, so we swapped it out. But they really last forever. If it was a really big dairy, we have multiple sort gates, and that person really wanted an extra magnet, I'm sure we could ship them an extra magnet. Basically, it's plug and play. In the control box on the top, it's just a quick connect fitting. You plug it in, so if it were to go down, it could be serviced immediately. But as far as longevity, I have not had any actually fail.
Well, that's great to hear. I'll let you keep going on here. And if there's any other questions that people have watching, feel free to type them in and we'll make sure to ask them as we go here.
So also return on investment. So you're going to think like labor, and I talked about it a little bit before, labor being, the biggest factor. And we can set these all up in different type of scenarios. For instance, like the video that you're going to see later is I wouldn't say a smaller dairy, but 1,000, 1,200 cows or something like that. They set it up so that way they catch all the cows go back to their pen, right? So they're home and they're comfortable, because that's where they like to be. But they split the pen, so all their sort cows are a little bit separate, so they can work those cows every day. Now, when we get to a larger dairy, maybe that facility wants a centralized location where they work those cows, whether it be for heat or health. We can put them all in that sort pen and they can work those animals there. What that does is not only does it change the amount of labor it takes to find those cows, but it also changes the number of steps that your employees have to put on if they're working all those cows in the same area. So that's another place where we see a return on investment where, like the guy that talks in this video that's coming up, his name is Ben. He's been there forever and he's not getting any younger, and I'm not calling him old by any means, but it makes his day a lot easier because he doesn't have to walk out and look for those cows. So I'm gonna play this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's actually pretty good.
My name's Ethan Wise with Foresight Farms out of Decorah, Iowa. I farm with my family, dad and brother, on the day-to-day operations, milk about 1,200 cows, and raise all of our own heifers at a remote site 5 to 6 miles away, and utilize CowManager at both places. We installed CowManager's Sort My Cow sort gate in February of 2023. We're looking for something to both cut down lockup times as well as just stay out of the pens, be able to push stocking density a little bit, get a little more milk out of each stall, and started looking at sort gates to help fix that problem.
Before I was sorting by hand So if it wasn't for the sort gate, then I'll be doing that by hands in the parlor, lifting the gates pretty much all day long to pull 260 cows. But now I set up my list and the sort gates. I come in the morning, all my cows are sorted, do my treatments, and ready, done in a couple hours.
When we first saw the design, it was like, okay, it works off of springs, gravity, and magnets. Like that sounds a little too good to be true. But once we saw it, had it on farm and working, yeah, it's been great. Super simple to work on if there is an issue, and don't have to be worried about loss of air or pressures like you do with some other competitors' designs. The noise level with the gate has been really low. Probably the loudest part of it is when both sides return to their home position, and that's simply just a magnet contacting itself, so you're not hearing air cylinder activate and pressure coming off from that. So super quiet, super simple.
It's very easy for the cows to go through. Most of the time I can say it's 100% because I don't miss any cows. So I'm very, very happy with the accuracy we have with the system.
I think we've seen a phenomenal return on investment with installing the sort gate. Seeing labor go down, just moving away from that manual sort. It's easier on the cows, not having someone in there physically pulling cows or sorting them. They're used to going through it. They go through it every milking. It just changes direction once in a while, right? So I've definitely seen the cow comfort piece, and then in the decreased lock times, I think we're seeing that across the board from foot health through pregnancy rate, let a cow be a cow type of concept. All the information we've gotten from it is great, but it's been the service and the people behind the product that has really been the difference. Any product that we buy on our farm is probably half about the product and half about the support behind the product. So having that support was a big part of the decision-making process.
The whole system, CowManager, the sensors, health, heat detection, and now with the sorting gates has been just one of the biggest and best spending things that they did. I think it's worth it. I will recommend it highly, 100%. CowManager is a game change.
So you wouldn't believe it, but we didn't pay them to make that testimonial. That was on their own. I think they're just happy to have a product. They're always into trying new things. It's just a great family to work with too. So I can't say enough about, and if they're listening, thank you. They've been great customers. So one of the things that we do, and it comes from our customers, and I said this before, but a lot of times they're looking for something new, and they said, hey, we want a sort gate. It's not that we built it just for them, but they had a lot of insight on what they needed and things like that, and they were more than willing to try the new thing and work with us through some things. But just the noise in the background of that video, that is the actual noise on the dairy. It's so quiet. It opens and closes. Even on those magnets, we have it spring loaded, and there's some rubber grommets on it. So like that slap is as minimal as we can get. And in that video, you can see that spoon is only moving. The cows are not afraid to go through there. They're just moving through there at a natural flow. There's no sense of urgency. We're not running them through, pushing them through where they're scared or anything like that. And you'll see that if you go and, I'm sure everybody can go to a neighbor and go look at a sort gate. But, you're going to see like there's a sense of urgency when we have to run a lot of cows through that gate with the slamming door. It's almost like they're running through it to try and beat it. And we don't have that in this. It's just a very natural movement. So Amber, is there any more questions on the sort gate before I roll into the next slide?
Yes, but I don't know if this one's necessarily one you want to take now or later. But I'll throw it at you and you can say we can hold it if you want. This question reads, is it only a two-way sort gate or is it able to do three-way sorts?
This one is designed to do two-way sorting. We are working on a design for a three-way sort. I would encourage everybody to consider speed when we go to a three-way sort. So I would encourage everybody right now to use our two-way sort. And if we need to go into a third pen, we can always do a secondary sort with an additional sort gate. But we are working on something on a three-way sort where we can still have this cow flow where there's not that urgency where we're chasing them through. At least, the things I've seen in the field, it seems like with the three-way sorts, we're really pushing them cows through really quickly.
Okay, that is the only other question we have at the moment, so I'll let you keep going.
Yep. So also we're fully integrated into our CowManager program. So what you see here is our CowManager program. In order to sort any of these animals, there's the box on the left-hand side. We can select a whole list of all the cows in heat. We can check a full list of cows that are sick. We can schedule it. So if you want to schedule it the day after, the next day, or if you want to enter in animals that you need for hoof trimming the day before, then you just schedule that for the time that you need the next day. If you wanted to do a week ahead of time, you can do it a week ahead of time, but I would imagine that list is changing sometimes, whether that be vet check or anything like that. We also heard comments from the field that they wanted fully integrated where we can schedule from lists on some of the herd management software, and we're working on that as well. So I don't think that's too far off that we're going to be able to actually automatically sort anything from any of the herd management softwares, and that will take time, but I don't think it's that far off. So depending on the herd, and we're going to get into a couple designs in the next couple slides, but it doesn't matter what size this is. It's even our CowManager product. It's not that we built it for small herds or large herds. There's maybe some conveniences depending on herd size, but there's definitely no limit depending on how small or how big or how many sort areas. There is anytime we're going to go and put a sort gate in, we want to see the facility first, grab some measurements, make sure that we can fit it in because it does have a footprint. Most of that is like I like 6x9, but if we add the divider rail, we're probably closer to 6 foot by 13 feet. So we want to make sure that the return alley or the sort area is big enough to facilitate this because we want it to be successful. We want it to be successful for you guys. So we want to make sure that we can set it up right from the start. So this is how we would normally set it up in a rotary. Obviously, like this is picture perfect. Like a new facility, this is how we would want it. It doesn't always happen that way. We might not have the right sort area. We might not have the right width. And the sort gate might actually be cheaper than the renovation to make it work. Since we put these in the video that you've seen there, we had to make a few immediate changes. A few months later, after we got things working well, there were some changes we wanted to make, ended up pouring some new concrete, adding some dividers, things like that. But we can do those things as time goes on. But we really want to see the site before we do it to make sure we can set it up the right way. So you see these cows come off the rotary, go directly into the sort gate, and then we can sort them into a sort area as well as back to the default position wherever that pen that they're going to after they get done milking. So very simple, and each one of these, every farm that we put it in, I don't think there's one that looks the same yet. So this would be a rapid exit, similar to the video you've seen. We have 2 sort pens. Cows leave the parlor, end up going through the sort gate, end up either getting sorted or going back to the default. And we can change in the software which way is default, which one is the sort. So that way, depending on what side of the parlor we're on, we can make sure that the cows end up in the right place.
So Jared, I have to ask, and this is again one of those $1 million questions that nobody's going to have a perfect answer to. For somebody who is potentially looking at getting a cow sort or a sort gate, excuse me, when you're going through a retrofit, none of it is necessarily easy. Like you mentioned, you like to be able to go out, make those measurements, make sure everything is even possible to start with. But from start to finish, how long does it typically take to get a CowManager sort gate installed, in place, and ready to go? And again, I know there's a million different variances in between, but from your guys' end, how long does that typically take?
So the actual install is quick. The process would be very quick as well. Right now we have a waiting list, so that changes things. We're probably, I would say, like 6 months out right now. maybe 4, depends how fast we can get them in. But like the planning stage, it'd take a few weeks to actually plan, make sure that it's going to go in the right place, figure out what changes we need to make to get it in there. The installation is quick. We normally have to do it in between milkings. Right now, the sort gate is manufactured in Iowa, so we ship them in fully assembled. As long as we can get them through the door, normally we slide them in. A lot of them, we've actually, a group of guys, just pick it up, move it in, slide it in, a good group of guys, not saying that it's 3 people that slide it in, but they're the one video that you've seen before, in that particular structure, it's not like we could slide it in with a payload or a skid steer. So there were 6 of us. We picked it up, slid it in, anchored it down. We did 2 of them in between milkings. It probably only takes about an hour to get it in. I'm not saying we had it all wired in, but we were able to get the cows through it in the next milking, and we finished up the final touches, adjusting everything. But the installation takes no time. The planning takes longer than the installation, but if we didn't have a waiting list, I'd say, 3 weeks. If we didn't have a whole lot of concrete work that need to be completed ahead of time, moving posts, things like that. So each one's different, but the planning and installation doesn't take that long.
Well, and I have to say, when it comes down to installing, I think that is a huge factor for a lot of people, is how can we continue to be a farm, even though we still need to get some things done here. So that is great to hear. Another one of the questions I had, especially as you mentioned it really early on, that cow power, that instead of horsepower, it's run by cow power. How exactly does that work? I know it was kind of a little bit easier to see in the video, but if you were to explain that, is it just them pushing it through along with the electromagnets? How exactly does that work?
I wish in one of the slides I had the overview, but in between those 2 spoons, if I go back to slide 5, I think you'll be able to see it. All right. Can you see slide 5, Amber?
Yep.
Right. All right. So the 2 things on the side, them are the spoons. So they're hinged up at the fore end of the sort gate. So when one of them cows goes in there, like, she's the only one that can actually get in there. And then one of the magnets will release for that animal to leave or exit. And you'll see, like, this one here would be, say, sorting the animal right now. So it released the magnet, and as she leaves, it closes that opening. So only one animal can get in there. So she'll know, because she's going to push against it. And she's always going to push against the one where it normally goes back to default, because that's what she remembers. But then every once in a while, that one's going to be locked and she's in heat that day and she has to go the other way. But then that magnet releases, and as she's pushing against that spoon, that end will open and she knows she has to go to the opposite end.
Okay, I think that's a really great example, and it helps having the image here. I'm somebody who's very visual, so for me that helps explain that quite a bit. One of the other questions I have is that between the last time we saw you at Business Conference, between then and now, things have changed, and things are always continuing to change and evolve when it comes to a new product. But what's next in terms of the sort gate? What are some of those kinks that you guys are working out, or maybe things that you're perfecting, and or what's next in terms of, the iterations that are yet to come?
So it's constantly changing, just like our ear tags. I think we're on the 9th version of our ear tag, so we're constantly getting it better, making sure battery life is lasting longer, adding blinking lights. So like our product never sits still, and the same is for the sort gate. The sort gate right now, like the version that you've seen in the video, is our first version. The one that you see here in front of you is our second version, and now there's already a 3rd version that's into production. And I'm sure there's going to be more similar to like the 3-way sort and things like that. But every time we find something that we can make better, we do it. So the gate you're looking at in front of you right now is fully welded and non-adjustable as far as cow width. And we want it to be as close to your size cows that you have on your dairy. And there's going to be some variation, and we understand that. But a Jersey or a Jersey cross herd is going to be different than a Holstein herd. So we need to be able to adjust that. So we're going to, instead of having it fully welded and fit to that specific one, in case a herd would, say, change the size of their cows because of their stalls or something like that, we're going to be able to adjust that gate to make it wider or narrower depending on which dairy we're on and what kind of animals they have and what their needs are.
That sounds like a really great new addition that's coming. That makes a lot of sense, especially knowing from farm to farm, cows definitely can have the tendency to look a little bit different. What have we not talked about, Jared? I know you've had a really great slide deck here that we've gone through some questions, but from your experience, you're on farm, you're talking with producers, you get to see the product in person and all of the greatness that it has to offer. But what have we missed here today that you still want to either mention or talk about in terms of the sort gate?
I think we covered just about everything, but like one thing I would keep in mind, go look at a few sort gates, whether it's ours or somebody else's, make the right decision for you and your farm. It doesn't have to be my sort gate or somebody else's, but really go take a look at them and make the right decision for you guys. I think this is a great design. It's very, very quiet, very, very cow friendly. Flow rate. There's, depending on herd size, what kind of parlor, make sure you understand flow rate, understand, and this is something that I don't think I ever stop learning, not just the flow rate, but the patterns of the cows, right? There's some situations that we get in where somebody draws up, this is where we want the sort gate, and we have to rethink it because cows like to go back home. They don't like difference. They don't like being able, they don't want to turn a ton. So we want to make sure that the angles are right, make sure that it's set up for success because we can go plop it anywhere, but that doesn't mean it's going to be successful. So when you're deciding where you want to put a sort gate, whether it's ours or somebody else's, make sure you take a look and make sure that it's going to fit there, but not only fit there, the cows are going to like it, because if the cows don't like it, it's not going to be a success no matter what color the sort gate is.
I think that is a fantastic reminder to all the folks that seeing it with your own eyes can have a lot of value in and of itself. But the last question of the day for you, Jared, is, after all of this information, maybe they decided to go out and take a look at some sort gates and really think about this themselves. But, from today's discussion, what do you want producers to be doing or actively thinking about after they leave here today?
So, we have a lot of offerings, different products and things like that. But if it's something that you're interested in and you have questions, I have a wonderful team that surrounds me. Make sure you reach out to them. We also, we work through Select Sires. We have a partnership with Zoetis. Ask your representative. If they don't have the answers, they'll know who to contact and we can get you the right phone number. We can make a herd visit. You can send us pictures. We can take a look and at least offer some sort of insight if it's an option for you or what kind of changes you'd have to do and make, and you'll kind of have an idea what that's going to cost. So that way you can make an educated decision.
Well, Jared, thank you so much for your time here this afternoon. It's a great pleasure to see you again, especially to hear more about the sort gate here a month or so after our business conference in March. So appreciate your time here this afternoon.
Thank you, Amber. Thanks for having me.
I also want to say thank you to those who asked their questions and joined us live, as well as to those who are maybe in the fields or in the barn here this afternoon getting some work done. So thank you for joining us as well. But for now, this is the end of today's episode, and we'll see you here tomorrow on the Dairy Signal. Bye now.